Okay. Well, good evening, one and all. Very nice to see you here this evening. Really great to speak with our rookie team representatives. My name is William, the First Robotics Program Manager for the First Robotics Competition Program Manager for the province of Ontario. And yeah, we're happy to have a discussion about your first year as a First Robotics Competition team. We may begin with just a few introductions, and then I have a few slides to guide this discussion. It's meant to be very interactive, so I don't really have a set presentation, so to speak, but I do have a number of documents that we could review together that might spur some further discussion and questions and answers and all kinds of things like this. So maybe I'll just start with a brief introduction. My journey through First Robotics started in 2015 when my students approached me in our STEM club and suggested that we start a robotics team as part of this competition. And I really didn't know anything about it at all. I just said, oh, that sounds fun, and began mentoring the team. And little did I realize that there's a lot involved in running a First Robotics competition team. And so some of the things I might share with you are from personal experience. And I'm sure together, our collective experience and wisdom will help to guide all the teams through the season. So for 6 years, I ran First Robotics competition in my classroom, doing computer science and computer engineering technology, completely integrated with the First Robotics team. And there is no other way to do education. That's my plug for integrated, interdisciplinary, community-connected education. You can't get better than that. And First Robotics is right where it is. And it has been an incredible journey so far. So I might pass it over to maybe Dahai.
Yep, thank you, William. So my name is Dahai Zhang, and I'm a coach for rookie team 10015 Bubbles. Our team is kind of cute. Even though I'm a rookie coach for FRC, but I'm not like I'm very familiar with First. I've been doing First Lego League competition for this is my 5th year. My journey started back in 2019, during the COVID. Actually, prior to COVID, we decided to do FL. Then the COVID hit, so we started with our online. And I start with FL just because, probably similar to many coach and mentors. My son Ryan, he was grade 5, grade 6, so we want to start with a team. In the North region, East Greenberry back then. So we start with community team, and later on, we move on, and we did decent, and we grow bigger, and now I'm running 4 FL teams, and my son's team, they graduated from FL. So we talk, we say, you know what, we want to stay with First. There's no other platform, right? We know there's other kind of robotic competition out there, but like we did our research, like First is, not only I'm saying here, I will go outside, I say First is the best and the only choice to me, because multiple reasons, not only technical. I like the whole core values, the entire culture, I would say, that kind of inspire my kids and my team. So that's how we started FRC this year, and we're preparing for the upcoming competitions. Thank you, William.
Thank you so much to Dahai. We'll continue on with Brad. Welcome, Brad.
Hi. Sorry, a little loud in the background, but my name's Brad Calders. I've been with Team 8789 for the last 4 years, I think it is. So I've been mentoring for a while, but unfortunately, one of our 2 lead mentors passed away this summer, so we needed somebody to kind of step in and take over some of the roles of lead mentor. So I've stepped into that role at this point. I'm gonna keep it short. Don't really want to go into a lot of the background, but that's me in a nutshell at this point.
Thank you so much, Brad, and condolences to Team 8789 about the loss of your mentors or your mentor in the summertime. And we're happy to accompany you as you sort of take on the role of the mentor of the team. And we're here to answer questions and hopefully to support you in the process. Thank you very much again, Brad. We'll move on to Adi.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So my name is Adi Pura. I work out of Harvard Collegiate in Toronto, and we're trying to get our first robotics competition team back up and running after a 5-year hiatus. The past mentors have all moved on. There's myself and another gentleman, another teacher, who are trying to get this off the ground. So even though we were one of the, I guess, original TDSB teams, we're starting from scratch. So I'm going to be calling on a lot of help to get us off the ground, and looking forward to learning some stuff tonight and connecting with people.
Amazing. Well, great to speak with you, Adi, and
You too.
welcome back. That precedes my time at First Robotics Canada, so really glad that your team is able to regenerate. Team 919, is it?
Team 919, yes. Happy to be back.
And thank you. That brings us to Ram.
Oh, hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Ram Atwaru. I'm the mentor and teacher for Team 8764. Well, we're not necessarily a rookie, but in a kind of way, I attend all the meetings because every year it's like a brand new start with all new students, and seems like we always have to learn. And yeah, I think in a way, I feel as if I'm always in a rookie. We are still in a rookie mode because, and the main thing is because we are very low resource team. So we are kind of on par with the rookies in terms of resourcing and having new students every year.
Thank you so much. Glad to have you here, Ram. What I will do then is I will share my screen, and I've had everyone do some introductions. I might ask you one more time if you might suggest any particular points of learning you would like to discuss this evening. I'm sure there'll be time for discussion, but if you might respond to that even in the chat, if there's something you would learn particularly or have some questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will periodically check in there. And otherwise, we can proceed through the little presentation. It's more just of a checklist of things that rookie teams may think of, and even veteran teams may think of in preparing for their season. So let me just show this slideshow. All right, so our rookie team discussion for 15th, 2024. And I'm hoping by the end of the session, teams will establish a strategy to successfully carry out their first FRC season, or in hearing from you, in continuing in subsequent FRC seasons. And we've had our introductions. So with respect to learning goals, if you might just place any questions you have in the chat as we go, you can also feel free to just jump in. There are only 5 of us on the call, so please feel free to just jump in anytime. And I'm very glad that Dahai mentioned gracious professionalism. I put that on the first slide as he was mentioning that because I realized that I had overlooked that feature. I was being very sort of structural and methodic in terms of organization, but I think it's very important to continuously come back to the reasons that we do first. And Dahai has really hit on something. There's something very special about First Robotics. And gracious professionalism has something to do with this. And you may know the story of the founding of the first robotics competition in the late 1980s by inventor Dean Kamen, and his subsequent engagement of a professor from MIT named Dr. Woody Flowers. Dean Kamen, a famous inventor whose companies have designed and produced multiple inventions that assist humanity in terms of water resources or the medical field. Even the Segway came out of his company. And then meanwhile, Dr. Woody Flowers is the balance to that, in that he has a really strong legacy in terms of the human development side of FIRST. And that's where gracious professionalism come in. And it's really hard to explain because we have these preconceived notions about what a robotics competition is. The word competition suggests certain things, and when you add robotics in there, you get the notion of robot wars. Are we doing robo wars? No, we're not. We are having a competition, but more so, it is a cooperation because of gracious professionalism. We are thinking of the well-being of the other teams, and we are celebrating their victories even alongside our own victories. And whether or not we're with them in an alliance during a match or on the other team during a match, we are able to create a really engaging cooperation environment because of the gracious professionalism. And this makes FIRST events very unique. The FIRST robotics competition is something like a basketball tournament with a 3-on-3 format, mixed with a rock concert with the loud music and celebration, mixed with a science fair with all kinds of human ingenuity on display and being celebrated. And Dean Kamen's view was that we should celebrate engineering even as we celebrate the arts and athletics in our society. We fill stadiums for basketball games and for rock concerts. Why not fill them to celebrate human ingenuity through the FIRST organization? And that's what he has succeeded in doing. And attending the World Championships is a sort of testimony to the hard work over several decades now to bring this about in our society. There's certainly a long way to go. And I think when we join a FIRST robotics competition team, it's really important to consider what is gracious professionalism, and maybe look back at some of the videos you may find and the literature you may find about Dean Kamen's original vision and Woody Flowers' insistence that we rise above mere creation of robots and instead build amazing human beings alongside our robots. And that will be very much worth your while. And human beings, they don't purchase the what, they actually go for the why. And many marketing examples look into this. And if we know why we're doing something, it gives us that extra motivation when we get tired or we're not sure why we're doing something. If we think about it and we realize that this is changing human lives and it's going to make all kinds of positive impacts in our community, that might just give us the motivation we need to keep our team going and to make it all that much more special. So yes, we are a robotics competition. No, this is not robot wars. And gracious professionalism creates such a unique experience. You really had to be there. And that's why it's really important to invite people to events so that they might experience it themselves. When you bring someone to an event, they can feel the atmosphere is different at a FIRST event, and the competition is balanced with the cooperation in a really beautiful way. So I thought I'd mention that, and I think you should perhaps take some time in your teams to let everyone know who is Woody Flowers, who is Dean Kamen, and what was their grand vision in creating the FIRST organization for inspiration and recognition of science and technology. So thank you, Dahai, for that very special reminder. So a season overview. This is what a first robotics competition season might look like. And this overview actually starts in January, even though we're now in the fall season. That's when we actually do the registration and signing up of new teams. But it really gets started on the first Saturday of January, and that's when you have kickoffs. We will take a look at a few of the things that you may consider as rookie teams. Every robotics team will get a kit of parts. The rookies get some extra parts as they are new, and they will be shipped to your kickoff location. Mr. Keenan, my colleague rather, he's one of the first senior mentors in Ontario. He tells me that a good number of the teams in Ontario, most of them have already selected their kickoff locations. If you haven't done so, you need to go into your dashboard to select your kickoff location. Of those who are here, most would probably end up choosing Studica as a kickoff location, except for our representatives of team 8789. Brad's team will likely pick up here in London. Okay, so there's the kickoff and the kit of parts. You pick those up during the kickoff. As a rookie team, this is your final confirmation that yes, indeed, you are in for the season. Once you pick up your kit of parts, you have firmly committed to your journey through First Robotics for the season. There is something you will receive some communications about from our headquarters and perhaps from us here at First Canada, First Choice. It's a program whereby you may prioritize a bunch of items on a website by ranking them, and then a random selection process will assign a box of those items to you. Each item has a certain number of points, and you are given a certain number of points to spend, and you allocate as many priorities as you can manage, and they will create a box of items to send you. The only catch in Canada here is that the shipping is really expensive. So there is a very close economic call as to whether the parts you get in your first choice are actually worth it. And so you may want to carefully consult others in the lead up to the first choice being open in December. A few considerations for Canadian teams. It is possible to have the 2 rounds of first choice shipped together. They'll hold your first round allotment, and then the second round, they might ship it in the same box, thereby saving you some shipping fees. If you're interested in finding out more about First Choice, you may contact me. I myself did this only twice as a mentor, the first 2 years, and then I realized that the shipping fees were in excess of the value of the materials that we were getting in First Choice, and I chose rather to select other items for purchase for the team. And so those are a few thoughts about First Choice. There will be some communications sent to you in your emails. Now, the KitBot and the EveryBot. We have, over the years in the first organization here in Canada and in the United States, been able to manage to put together some supports for teams. And we're really grateful to our partners at NASA and Team 118, the Robonauts out of Houston, Texas, who every year support the entire community with the creation of what's known as the EveryBot. And last year, a new innovation sort of complements this, and it's called the KitBot. So starting with the EveryBot, this is a pre-designed robot with very detailed instructions and bills of materials that will allow a rookie team to create a robot with a reasonable cost and readily available materials, and also with minimal tools. So this is a really great place to start if you haven't done a robot before. And this even applies to some veteran teams. As was mentioned in the call, there are some teams who have completely turned over all their mentors. Even mentors who may have been on a team last year may not have been involved in the same way. And so to build up capability, this is a great place to start. And if you're unsure about it, it was it's a great recommendation for you to design or to participate in the EveryBot program. Now, how does the KitBot relate to the EveryBot? The KitBot was a new innovation last year in that they took the key components of the EveryBot and made them available in your robotics kit. So out of the box, you already had most of the things you needed to build the KitBot, and the KitBot itself was a functional robot for the competition. The EveryBot being an extension thereof, where you would buy a few more components and extend your KitBot. And indeed, even if you simply choose to build the KitBot, you may follow the EveryBot or design and build your own components into the competition robot that you're building. And this program is a really great sort of scaffolding for new teams to promote and to support and complement the KitBot and EveryBot program. Last year, we had 2 quick builds, one here in London and then another in Scarborough. What we did, we tried with a small number of teams in week 2 after kickoff in London here. And then based on what we learned, we were able to offer a KitBot and EveryBot session for 5 teams the next weekend. And everyone is most welcome to participate, veteran teams and rookie teams alike in the KitBot and EveryBot. And we drew on some support from some robotics teams that had lots of experience to help us out with parts and expertise in creating these KitBots. So the build season, as a rookie team, you have several considerations for the build season, and please just note, feel most welcome to speak up. I'm seeing in the chat, there's a chat here. And Ram was confirming my comments about the shipping. It's rather disconcerting that an imaginary little line across Lake Ontario creates such havoc, but it does. So looking at the build season, time management and careful planning are your friends. And coming back to the KitBot and EveryBot, if you're not sure about your team's capabilities to design and implement a more complicated robot, the KitBot and the EveryBot are really great places to get yourself a working robot as soon as possible. If you were to emerge from January with a working robot, then February might be a time to practice with the robot, give the drivers some experience, the coders some time to refine their code, and even a chance to extend and modify your robot, all in keeping the basic functioning of your robot working. With a working robot, you're set for the competition. Even if it doesn't do everything that the competition is designed for, it can still make a valuable difference in the games, especially if you're really good at thinking about the strategy that you take on. So looking at your build season, a careful analysis of what has to be done on what timeline and with what people is really important. It's a little bit difficult to do that if it's your first time through. And again, coming back to the KitBot and EveryBot, that might help you. And over time, it becomes easier and easier to do this planning. But the essential message is to get your robots built as soon as possible. And put in the heavy hours in January, even before exams hit for the public schools involved. And you will really feel that there's a benefit there. That's one of the things that describes what the build season is like. It's fairly intense. For me, my first build season, I didn't know anything about FIRST Robotics. I didn't know anything about the motors or the aluminum of the parts or anything at all. And so it was a little bit bewildering. I knew that I wanted my students to do things, and I kept on encouraging them to put things together, but they also didn't know exactly what to do. And in subsequent seasons, I realized that we need a whole team of mentors to be the most successful. Yeah, you can get through a season with 1 or 2 people, and as rookie teams, you may just have that. It is ideal, though, to engage parents and professionals in the community and other teachers in your school and the administration of your school. In fact, a broad-ranging collection of collaborators to help you in your season. Many hands make light work. Anyone who knows me in the context of FIRST Robotics will hear me say this repeatedly, as I have been through the few hands make a lot more work kind of experience. And I've also, in my later seasons as a mentor, I really felt the benefit of having multiple mentors supporting the team. So the build season is rather intense. However, with careful planning and a great team assembled around you, the more planning and the more support you draw on, the more manageable and sustainable will be your team, and the better your experience will be during the build season. So then that brings us to the kinds of support. Not only do we have the KitBot and the EveryBot, we have several teams around Ontario that might support you in your efforts. And I think a future slide here will highlight them. And there is a Slack channel. There are numerous mentor calls like this, and individuals throughout the province who have experience who are always willing to lend a hand. I have mentors who call me all the time and say, oh, is there any team that needs help? Just let us know because we're ready to jump on. And it's really an amazing community that way. And then finally, what it is like to compete in an Ontario district event. The best way to know that is to try that through experience. And some of you may have already seen the CNE off-season event that was over the Labor Day weekend. We also have two upcoming off-season events. One, the Stemley Cup, is actually two events in one, and that's held next weekend at St. Mary High School in Hamilton. And if you would like to get more information, you can let me know. I have sent it in the program updates. And then you also may consider the off-season event in Windsor the following weekend on the 26th of October. There's the Southwest International. There's no better way to know what it's like to compete in an Ontario district event than to compete in one. And there are two off seasons to help you in that regard. Here are a few comments coming up. I'm seeing here, try to get a drive base completed quickly and then work on the different components. I really love that advice, Brad, and I thank you for it, because that even makes it more simple. You prioritize, you're always working towards having an operating robot, even if it's just a few wheels and a battery and it moves around. And then you worry about what you're going to put onto it. So then the coders and drivers are already working on it as you work on your arm for 3 weeks. They're not going to be delayed. So that's a really, really great set of advice. And I wish I had known about that, because I didn't know about that at all in our first season. We spent most of the time trying to figure out what this competition was. So that's very good. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Brad. So we move on to the kickoff and the kit of parts. A few other details here. You will likely want to mark off your calendar for January 4th, 2025. A few little things to consider. If you and your team are going to be at the kickoff, and the kickoffs vary widely, then just pick up your robot with a few pieces of ID, or at least a piece of ID, and one of the lead mentors. If one of your two lead mentors is not going to be available to pick up your kit, then you need a surrogate form. And these will be sent to you before the kickoff. It's a link that is sent to you. You fill out the form, we get a copy. And this is just to ensure that random people off the street don't come into possession of your robot kit. And the vehicle considerations, it is a really good idea to get a vehicle with enough room. A typical family sedan is usually enough, but if you're picking up several kits, a larger vehicle like a minivan or a pickup truck or whatever it is that has a little bit more room might be your choice. So just be aware of those little issues. Your ID is required. One of the two lead mentors must pick up the kit unless a surrogate form has been filled out, and then a designated person designated in the surrogate form is able to pick up the kit. Following the instructions carefully on that is a good idea. So stay tuned for future communication about that as we approach the kickoffs in January. There are kickoffs all throughout the province, they take on different forms. Our main kickoff at Studica is the simplest one. Since there's no room at Studica, since it's mostly a warehouse, the teams merely show up, pick up their kits, and then they're off to their team meetings to start unraveling the mysteries of the game. Meanwhile, in other kickoffs around the province, they also may mix it with a viewing party and brainstorming sessions and other activities. You will check with your kickoff coordinator to see what will happen during that day. So we already discussed the kit of parts, but I did not point out that the kit of parts does not consist merely of a few physical items. There are two other items that are part of the kit of parts. The first choice items that we did discuss are part of this, but also some virtual items that are vouchers for sensors and software, for example, as you see there on the little red computer. So the three parts of the kit of parts are something to consider. First choice by Andy Mark, we had a little discussion about that, and much of this we've already talked about. And here's an example of an EveryBot from a few years ago. So far we're contemplating a game this year, a quick build in London, probably very soon after kickoff, and maybe 2 weeks after kickoff, a quick build in, it may end up being in Mississauga this year. We will find out about that. It could also end up being in Scarborough, somewhere in the GTA. All of that has to be announced. You will find ways to register for the quick build through our program updates. And we've talked a little bit about the build season, and an interesting thing here is to choose the scope of the robot build really wisely. If you try to do too much, Rome was not built in a day, and when you see what other teams are able to achieve, you also feel inspired to do likewise, and yet you also have to be wise as to how much you're going to attempt to do. And one of my favorite examples is that a rookie team a few years ago here in Ontario chose to just do the low goal, which is not the glorious job, but is highly, highly useful. And they analyzed the game a few years ago and were able to determine that that was a good mix of productivity versus simplicity. Their low goal mechanism was extremely reliable. Their robot was really reliable. They entered the competition with some confident driving, and they placed 6th in all of Ontario in so doing. They had benefited from the wisdom of a number of highly refined Ontario teams, and yet they heeded that wisdom, which is not always the case. Especially when you have a group of new enthusiastic students, some of whom are aspiring famous engineers. They want to become famous on the very next day for their extremely dynamic inventions, which don't always align with the game rules and or practical outcomes. So choosing the scope of your robot build wisely is a really great idea. And planning carefully during this time, it might be good to review with your teams what are some of the planning approaches like Lean, Agile, and Scrum used in industry. If you can come across some mentors in industry who do project management, that could never harm a team if they were to get into this. And I've seen this in action. Some of the teams during their build sessions involve engineers and project managers from the community who are highly versed in efficient project management and systems engineering approaches. And there's the advice that we just saw from Brad: get the moving chassis as soon as possible. Along with that, the bumpers, it's often an afterthought. This is my team. The very first time we went to a competition in 2016, these bumpers were completed approximately 2 in the morning, the night before the competition, in the students' hotel room. That was an afterthought. We were just trying to get the robot running. And so we did not follow the advice of getting the bumpers done, but it's a very good thing to get us done as soon as possible in January, not on March 5th, when it might be your first day of competition. And so once you've got motion of your robot, you've got bumpers, then you can start adding the basic features. And if you have time, then you also add more sophisticated features. And then getting the lots of driving practice is really a benefit. It's not only driving practice, it's also considering strategy. There are some practice fields throughout the province. Last year we had one in Hamilton, one in Stouffville, one in Mississauga, one in Kingston, one in London, and so on and so on. Some teams have partial practice fields. Getting some interaction with other robots also helps you to understand how your robot's going to act in the competition. It's easy to manipulate a game piece if no other robot is about to run into your robot. So really great to get that practice on the field. We have 4 hub teams in the province. As of last year, we are also bringing another one on that has been really, really supportive of Team 7558. And so these are our various hub teams to which you might turn. And in addition to that, turning to the Slack channel, which is available from your program updates. The community is extremely versed in being able to answer questions in the Slack channel really, really efficiently. So those are a few considerations. I'm seeing the chat here. Oh, yes. Okay. And it would be great to have a practice field in the York region this year. I think the closest one to you, Dahai, would be the practice field, which is located in Stouffville. And I think I may have met you there at that one. The York region itself, I don't know of any specific plans.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But
yeah,
so to my knowledge, I'm not sure that field was like renewed. Like, is that still available for teams to go or during certain time period?
According to my speaking with the mentors involved in that field recently, that is my impression. I'm sure that becomes more apparent in, say, late January when teams are starting to do their practice, and we'll definitely be announcing that then. But to the best understanding at the moment, that is going to be available.
Thank you.
Oh, no worries. And so Ram has brought up a very nice topic. The XRP robot. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen just for a moment to introduce the XRP robot. I think it's going to get blurred, so I'm going to unblur my background. Here we go. So here is an XRP robot. Every rookie team is entitled to 2 as of last year. And so if you are a rookie team, technically Dahai is the only rookie team. Although if you're not a rookie team, there may be ways to borrow some XRP robots, as we have a few of them out there in the system. This is a very quick to assemble robot. In less than an hour, you can put it together. And the very nice thing about it is its coding tool chain is compatible with the FIRST Robotics Competition coding tool chain. So as your team is building robots, it can also be coding the robots. And with only a few changes to the code, you can get some of your preliminary code done in this robot, try it out, and then you can transfer it with some minor modifications onto your bigger robot. This is available through SparkFun in the United States. We are trying to find ways to get them cost effectively shipped into Canada, and it's not the easiest thing, and something we're still working on, that imaginary line again, the border. So if you have some additional questions about these, you can let me know separately. At the moment, you can just get them at SparkFun in the United States. That's the whole catch. We're trying to find ways, as Brad has commented here, for Canadian teams to order them. There is an educator discount, which brings the cost down to about $60 American. I've not yet have found a way to get them across the border effectively. We did get a small shipment of them when they were first released, and we are reserving them only for rookie teams at the moment because we have limited numbers. Meanwhile, it is possible to order them off of the American site and pay US dollars for them. We are trying to find ways to get them across the border without excessive fees. It is a challenge sort of thing. Maybe the education discount is expired. The last I saw it was on, but maybe it is expired. I'm not sure. Have you seen that on the website, Ram?
Oh,
Yeah, well, the thing is, it expired in May. Sorry, from what I saw, I think there was one expired, or the one I was looking at expired in May. So I
Oh,
don't know if you know something different, but that one did expire in May.
okay. So that adds one more layer of complexity into what we're trying to do here. So I have been in touch with the one of the representatives of the XRP at Spark Fund, and they are willing to work with us. One of the challenges is, we are not an educational supplier in that sense. We don't do educational merchandise. We do robotics competitions, and we are not going to be getting into the import-export business. We do have a supplier, Studica, that has graciously allowed us to have our warehouse, but they are not at the moment Spark Fund suppliers in Canada. And even if they were, and there is a Spark Fund supplier in Canada, the next challenge is that there's a very strong markup going across the border. So those are a few things that we have encountered with respect to the XRPs. There are a few ways possibly to get around that, but at the moment, it is a challenging sort of situation. So yeah, I'm hoping that sometime we can have some better news about that aspect of our program. At the moment, it's been a little challenge. I have had a lot of requests from Canadian teams to get hold of the XRPs, and yet it's been more challenging than had otherwise been hoped.
William, I think on your mentor training session, isn't there a scheduled meeting on XRP?
Yes, and I'm going to have to reschedule that one. It's for next week. I have to find a way to get everyone the XRPs, and my grand imagination was that we would have all of our rookie teams signed up by now. I have several on the sidelines, so I'm delaying it a little bit. I'll have to reschedule that session. So, and in the meantime, I've been making arrangements for our warehouse. They're ready and they're on standby, and I'm going to start shipping them out as soon as possible.
Yeah. Just curious because I got the 2 XRP during our last workshop in Sudica. Thank you
Oh
for
yeah.
that. And I got my teams tested.
And
there
how
are
is it?
some feedbacks. So overall, just very quick, right? Overall assembly is very quick. WPI lib basic functionality is okay. Now my teams told me some module doesn't work well as they hoped. For example, even the ultrasonic sensor, they have a hard time to make it working. And I can't remember the details. The last time we touched probably a month and a half ago. The whole plan was to use Java, right? Because
Yeah.
that's an and at least those junior programmers couldn't get it working. So I'm gonna ask Ryan to take a look maybe later on. And also we found the AI camera. So we bought a Coral camera, try to attach to it. So that's something I can do a little bit test and report back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done much with the camera yet. And our focus in last year's workshops was largely on the servo and the drive motors and the basic functionality, comparing autonomous versus teleop mode and command-based versus timed robots. We didn't go into all of the peripherals that you could do to the extent that we could have. And it's all sort of choosing your battles. And that's really great to hear your team has been working with that. And it's often, yeah, you might, interestingly, learn a little bit more from that. Although I think the experience you're having is not unrealistic in terms of unfolding an FRC robotics project, because often you will find a new sensor or a new motor controller will have similar challenges that you didn't anticipate. Sometimes they update the software and you didn't realize that the code you're using is now deprecated, and you may have to use the new API that was not necessarily apparent that you had to do that at first. I see that Ram is saying that maybe we could still have the introductory session, and maybe we could do that next week, and then put a future session together when all teams have their XRP. An interesting thing could be, I may be able to get the XRPs out to some of our rookie teams this weekend. I might have to ask the warehouse. If that were the case, we might be able to run the workshop next week anyway. I'll maybe get back to you and put that in the program update as soon as possible, Ram. So thank you for all of that discussion. And I believe the XRP kit, I don't know if it's beta, but it's very new, relatively speaking. We did meet with the creators of the XRP in Houston a year and a half ago when they were just launching it. And First Robotics Canada took one of the first shipments of the XRP robots, and we distributed them to our rookie teams last year. And we did have 2 in-person sessions, and they seem to have been very well received. And also here in London, in my own runnings around London, visiting teams, we did a lot of little XRP activities, and they seem to be well received. It doesn't seem that hard to get the robot moving, but as Tahai is stating, sometimes some of the peripherals may not work. We also have found in the XRPs, as they are relatively new, some of them have manufacturing defects right out of the box. About 10% of our XRPs so far were not working. They were missing buttons, for example.
Yeah.
And or just
got one motor fried or what? Yeah, we tried to find a replacement for that motor.
Oh no, and that's tricky as well. They're not really common parts unless you go to SparkFun, and I'm not sure if they sell the parts separately. So really good points there, Tahai. So yeah, hopefully we'll have some interesting announcements about that over time to make it easier. But we've taken one step. At least our rookies will get a good chance at getting a working XRP. A few of our rookies, we had to change out the XRPs and try other ones last year. So we'll revisit this as soon as possible, and maybe I'll send an update. All right, we'll just continue along here. Checking the events, I think most of the teams here, if not all, have selected their events, at least for the first round of event selection. The next event selection will start this Thursday from noon till noon the following Thursday, and you'll get placed into your 2 events. A checklist of tools and items to bring is always a good idea. I do have one. I didn't prepare it for this presentation. You may make that checklist of tools as you go through the season, and we'll also have a checklist of tools and items to bring to the Everybot quick build. So one way or another, you'll develop a checklist and then be prepared for your competition. Planning the transportation. There are different ways to do this. Sometimes if your team has a remote event to attend, you can partner up with other teams. I know in my first few years, we had some partnerships with other teams that allowed us to share a bus, for example. And that was a really beneficial aspect of our attending an event that would have otherwise been a little too expensive, as we filled up all the seats on the bus. Booking hotels well in advance is advised. And knowing right away about your plans for championships. And since we're talking here about events, some school boards require you to get insurance certificates. Lucky for Brad, these have already been taken care of at the board level. So all the teams in the Thames Valley District School Board are already covered. They're very proactive in that board to get all the insurance certificates, as are a few other schools around the province. The World Championship, we don't have the insurance and certificate yet, but that will be ready. But in the meantime, it is very good for your team to determine, hypothetically speaking, if you were to qualify for the Ontario or the World Championships, what would your team do? In terms of your team's fundraising, each one will cost your team several $1,000s in tournament fees, and then the logistics such as transportation, hotels, meals, and the like. And getting permissions from your school and or your parents in the organization is a very good thing to do in advance. So there are some teams who are right now in that process. I've already been asked for the World Championship insurance certificate. That'll come soon, I guess. And these teams are very proactive. They know that sometimes the school board can take a little time to get these things worked out. So starting them early is a very, very good thing. And that will save your team a little bit of headache, as opposed to, say, if it were March 31st and you're at your final event and you realize that you suddenly have won the event and you have now qualified for Ontario Championships. What are we going to do now? It's only in a few days. And that has happened before. And that's also happened with respect to the World Championship. And it's not always an easy sort of process to work through on a short notice. In concert with that, you also want to have your financial means of payment worked out so as to ensure your registration on a timely basis. Usually either for the Ontario or for the World Championship, there may be a slight sort of crunch in the turnaround time. Last year, between week 5 and week 6, it was only a few days to get our team signed up for the provincial championship. A few things to consider there. At this point, I've talked way more than I usually talk. I really do like to have other people speaking. So I'll maybe stop my share and open it up for a little discussion. And see if there are any other suggestions, comments, questions, or things to consider. So it seems we've already had a fair amount of discussion as we've been going. Anyone may also feel free to reach out by phone or email to keep in touch and ask questions. I see that Ram has been asking about the XRP session. Right now I have it scheduled. If I don't do anything, that means that we're going to have it, but I was going to make an announcement about not having it. So if you give me a few days, and if you don't hear anything from me, then I assume that we will have the session. But I was just considering that there are a few very new rookie teams that might not be able to get their XRPs in time. So I've been sort of stalling on that, figuring out what to do. I may try to get as many XRPs as possible to our teams this weekend if I can manage that logistically, as they would be at the Stemley Cup. Yeah.
Yeah, because William, because my thinking is, even in my case, I like to see the stuff. Even somebody like if a presenter somebody who's done it before has actually just shown the programming and so forth, even though I've not opened a box.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, because with them we don't know how long it will take for these teams to get. If you get them out to them, we don't really know how long it will take them to like get it going to try it out. So maybe there's a session where we all attend and we watch and listen, but you won't. We don't necessarily get to try it, and we shouldn't be trying out things during the session because it might go too slow. And then
Yes.
maybe there's a future session where people would actually would be playing around it, and then so like it's almost like a part A and a part B. But I'd like to. I haven't been able to play with this thing, and I'm not a rookie that I could get one. So I was thinking somebody could just show us, do a show and tell, like show the programming, show the thing, or well, basically show the programming of it, even though we don't have our hands on any of it yet, right? So you can get an idea what it's about.
That sounds very good. I was just looking up here. We did have a session on this last year, and I'm not finding it. I don't know if it didn't get recorded, as we did have a technical issue. So for that reason, we will see what we can do about getting the XRP session going. And even if it's delayed a little bit, I'm sure we'll be able to have it this fall. So I may have to announce
Or
this.
because what happened is that now like this is off season, and I luckily I'm better shape this time than past when you don't have things for the students to do. And
Yeah.
always been that was my problem in the past. Now I'm trying to get myself more organized to have them stuff to do. Like right now, I'm getting busy trying to come up with a registration fee, and that's
Yeah.
kind of boring. So
Yeah.
then I wanted to use my to-do list to try understand this XRP a little bit so that I can see if I can work it in and as a way of giving them something to do. And so an introductory section, even to say, okay, somebody show if it's an XRP and show it was a kind of a cycle of what the API, where they on the programming side and how it connects and what they do and stuff.
Nice.
Even if we don't have an XRP, then I can start thinking about what I can do with them, and then a future section would be more where we try to learn more.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, I'm seeing here that the XRP session I thought we had, I cannot find it in here. So it may be good for us to try to do one and put it up on our site anyway. So very glad to move that forward. Maybe what we could do is, just like you're saying, we'll just have a little discussion about it. I'll show the code base for just a basic timed robot. And hopefully we'll have a few people on the call that can also point us some of the pitfalls and challenges that are encountered, and have that as a resource for the community.
William, a quick question. I mean, sounds like we're dreaming big, but so for the cost of World Championship, right? Just in case, we're lucky
Yeah.
enough to do it. Budget wise, so we have the budget for, all the way to provincials. Like for on average, how much would it cost for each student or each?
I think when you think about it from each student's point of view, one of the big fixed costs is the championship fee, which is 5,000 American. So you divide that into all your students, and then I would add about $1,000 and something for your flight, hotel, and meals. It could end up being 1,500. It could end up being 1,000 or 2,000. It depends on a few factors as to the method of transportation, the accommodation you end up getting, and the meals. I know in Houston, you can pay a lot of money for a tiny piece of food. But if you walk about 500 meters over, you can get a much more reasonable amount. So there are factors. I would budget between $1,000 and $2,000 a student. I think it's possible on 1,000 if you're really cutting corners. And if you're riding high in luxury, then you're more like 2,000. So it's somewhere in that range.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
And then you may want to just consult some travel arrangements and look into the hotels. There's a very particular hotel planning mechanism this year that goes through first, and think about all of that. But really good to work out those questions now, so you're ready to hit the ground running should you.
I never know, right?
Yeah. Well, there is every year at least one rookie team from Ontario gets the invitation. So because of the Rookie All-Star Award, and that happened last year. Really great experience on the part of those rookies. In fact, it's quite a inspiring set of stories when you see what happens.
Thank you.
Really great to see everyone this evening. And I'm wondering, will any of you be at the Stemley Cup this weekend?
We'll be there. We're gonna partner with the Makeshift. Yes.
Great. Oh yeah, Makeshift, amazing. Well,
we're going to be there as well.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, can't wait to see the 10mm loss sprockets. That's a really good name for a team. Keep your work areas neat, because you will lose 10mm loss sprockets and a lot of other things unless you keep it neat and tidy. And well, have a wonderful evening, one and all, and can't wait to meet you all, Brad, Adi, and to see you again, Ram and Dahai, and until very soon.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks a lot for doing this.
Thank you. Until very soon.